Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts.
Archlector George.
And Harrison, your depths historical.
We continue our coverage of Best Served Cold, Joe's first standalone and the next First Law entry after the original trilogy. And on this episode, we review the Peacemakers and Cooking Up Trouble. So, let's get started. As usual, we want to thank you all for your support, especially in this troubling time when our boy Harrison had an appendectomy, and then
yes, my appendectomy was pretty rough. But
how are you feeling, Harrison?
I think I'm bad. I got some scars, but I think I'm good.
Ooh, are they the sexy scars?
No, they're like the belly button weird gross scars. So.
They're sexy to some people, I imagine, though.
Yeah, well, they're sexy to you. That's what you said last night. But
that's very true. Very true. I did whisper that during our little pillow talk. So you know, as I cuddled your head in between my bosom.
I'm just having flashbacks to that hotel in Boston.
Oh yeah, things went down in that hotel.
We were very comfortable. The two Iberians all cuddled up nice and warm.
I've got the photographs to prove it.
Yeah. But thank you all for your support. We did have to take a little bit of a break there. Just while Harrison recuperated, but he is back in action. And, ready to go. Pardon the quality and sound on his end. If you notice it, he's visiting a family out in the Grand Canyon or something. I don't know.
And we're actually doubling up on episodes for this week. So we're recording 2 episodes this week. So next week will also be the same terrible quality, potentially.
Mm-hmm. So we ask that you be patient. Be patient, please. And also, want to say thank you. I don't know, by the time this comes out, whatever, if people have subscribed to my coworkers' YouTube thingy. If you have, great, thank you so much. If you haven't, die.
Not a big deal.
Not a big deal. No, it's fine. It's totally fine. If you did, just like again, he doesn't know. Oh, don't snitch. All right, don't tell him. Don't leave a comment saying here because of the Circle of the World podcast. I'm just trying to do something nice for him. Other than that, what else? I think that's pretty much it. So let's go into our first segment of the episode, which is our best meme of the week. And Georgie boy, that's you. So take it away.
So this week we have another returner. We have Lickshots 4119. On Reddit, who had a couple of the memes of the week. It was quite early, I think, maybe like episodes 8, 9, 10. We saw him a little bit, which is good, and it's good to see a comeback. It's that fucking train demolishing the school bus meme. Everybody loves that meme. It's always popular whenever I post one of those. It's a good one. And it's Baez is promising young apprentice Malachus Kwai being destroyed by his crazy ex-girlfriend eating his entire fucking apprentice and then taking his form and accompanying him on a grand adventure.
That's awesome. Man.
That sucks too, because I bet you Malachus Kwai was looking forward to this trip back home, and then he gets fucking shat out of the demon's intestines. That's not cool.
He is the true loser of that series. Like, everybody else does something like significant, and Malachus Kwai just kind of dies in a bog and then is on his way to recovery and gets eaten.
You know what? That is hilarious, because all in the first book, right? He can't navigate for shit looking for Logan. He nearly dies of starvation and illness, and Logan has to carry him back like a baby.
He can't study worth shit.
All right, you need to lay off him a little bit. The man is.
He can't magic worth shit.
You can't magic worth shit.
That's true. We never saw him do anything.
He couldn't guess a plant at all. Like, he was not destined to be a botanist at all. And then when he thinks he's taking a field trip back to his place of origin, home sweet home, he ends up as kibble. Poor guy. Poor guy.
I just find that so funny because that Malchus Kwai could have been his own character in his own book, and he just got his life just cut so tragically short.
The misadventures of Malchus Kwai
for a side plot. What a fate!
Oh, I know Harrison was happy about that fate.
I was.
Rude.
So yeah, thank you very much, Lick Shots 419.
Yep. Thank you so much, Lick Shots. We appreciate it. We appreciate you. So we'll move on to our first chapter read through, and this is the Peacemakers. Dun, 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 dun. And we start off from the perspective of our girl, Manza Mercato, and her and the homies, Sans, Morvier, and Day, are on the rooftop or the balcony of their house, looking down in the main street where a parade is taking place. And what comprises this parade, you may ask? Well, it is the lords and ladies and kings and queens of Styria and the Union. Because this is the time where His High King August Majesty Giselle Dan the First.
His August Majesty.
Whatever. He's here.
His August fucking Majesty.
Okay, all right, I get it. His August Majesty. Okay. And he's there to sow peace, right? He's there to make sure these people stop warring with each other, which is about as likely as
Giselle rising to the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I like that.
But you say that, but I love the fact that, for one thing, they never name Giselle here. They never call him Giselle.
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting that he just kind of... because nobody would.
No, and equally so. They mention Glockta about 3-4 times as well, and they always say the cripple.
Exactly, because in both of these cases, it's their reputation that we know. In one case, is manufactured, and the other tries to stay kind of anonymous.
Yeah.
And it both results in the same thing. It both results in them having these kinds of like aliases.
Yeah,
because we know for a fact that Giselle has no fucking idea what he's doing here, right? Like he's like, oh yeah, I've got to make peace in Styria, and he's like, I don't even know what I'm doing with my own fucking country. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
we know that he's well-meaning, but we also know he's incompetent.
Yeah,
I don't want to say he's incompetent. I would say he's powerless.
Oh, powerless is the proper word for it.
Yeah. Because he can't actually do what he wants to do. I absolutely believe and wholeheartedly that whenever all this stuff was going down, this was probably all Giselle's idea. Like, I doubt Glockta wanted him to come over. Like, I doubt it. Like, he's like, no, Glockta, I'm going over there. I want to promote peace and blah 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 blah. I understand that we have to side with Orso, but doesn't mean there can't be good things. And but he comes over, he doesn't actually really have anything to actually do other than just be a figurehead for peace.
Right.
But we'll get to how he looks here in a minute.
Right? Yeah. But so we see the parade. A lot of people are out to watch this parade. And we have, like I said, the homies.
This is Sapani. If it's nice outside, everyone comes out.
Yeah, it's Sapani. That's right. This is Sapani, night of it. Morvier and Day are out and about, not sure where. Manza is, not worried about it, but it doesn't. She's not as confident and trusting of them as she wasn't even like that trusting of them before. Definitely not after Westport. That's gone. And then what else? And then Shivers, with the very obvious revelation that there's a lot of people there. Manza notices that Friendly is kind of like his eyes are scanning the crowd and his lips are moving silently, and she's getting worried, like legit concerned that he's trying to count everybody in the parade. Oh, which is just great.
Which we know is absolutely true. Is that I'm counting these pictures. It's probably making him deeply uncomfortable, the fact that he can't count everything, all the little details.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely. And the guy was stressing about counting out each piece of vegetable and meat in a soup for each bowl. You think he's not gonna be pressed about counting all these people at this parade? But we see that Vitari, people are commenting on the size of the crowd. Casca, he throws in his usual his boasting, where he's like, "This is nothing. You should have seen it at Aspria after my victory back over there, the Battle of the Isles." And Vitari goes, "I was there. This was half the size." There were half as many apparently.
Yeah, because it's so funny that Costco's just so fucking delusional, isn't he? He's like, there were twice as many of this, and and the Vitari's like, there were half as many.
Yeah, and he says, "Does pissing on my dreams give you some sick satisfaction?"
A little bit.
Yeah, and she laughs. She goes, a little, just a little tiny bit." And that Monza's not like really smiling or anything about this, because then them talking about it makes her remember about her own battles, like Capriel or what else?
Osprey.
Austria. No, it wasn't Austria. No, but she was mainly thinking about Capriel. She was either thinking about, like, you, depending which side you are on, you called it either the fall of Capriel or the massacre of Capriel. And she was thinking about the parade they threw for her at Talons at the time, and that how she remembered how the people were cheering the loudest for her, even though Orso was riding just behind her. And she should have seen it coming then, she says to herself.
And I like that. I think that's such an interesting little detail that is the reason that Orso gives, and we're not going to get into that now, but I just want to point it out in case we don't bring it up later.
Yeah, he gave that in the beginning of the first chapter, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Casca notes that the people are here. When he says the people, he's indicating the lords and ladies of Styria, right? And so we see the first person, which is the Chancellor of Sapani. His name is Sartorius. Sartorius, and he is the first to appear, and he is truly ancient, all right? He's hunched over with the weight of a heavy chain of the office that he's worn since long before Monza was even born. So if we have to think, Monza's got to be at like 30, right? In her 30s.
Yeah. And I would say, as we actually get a little bit of a time frame from Casca in the next chapter, even more than we already have, she's definitely probably closer to her mid-30s, to be honest. And so Sartorius has been in charge for at least 35 years or something like that, which is ridiculous for this time period.
Yeah, yep. And to make matters worse, they're making this fucker walk instead of like riding a horsey, just because they have to keep in with tradition. And it's like, dude, where's the handicap accessibility? This man is old as shit. Let him ride a pony or something. But that's not the case here. But
I do think that's interesting that it's we've got this Grand Duke, and we've got the First Citizen, and all these interesting little different kinds of governments. I think that's a really interesting little detail there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so we have him going first. Some comments about him, like Monza thinks that Jesus Christ hang up the chain already, but I think Vitari is the one that says that he may be like near blind and old and everything, but he has like the clearest vision out of all these lords, because he can see what are the necessary steps to take to keep Sapani neutral, because he's kept Sapani neutral for 2 decades through the years of blood and everything. So throughout Orso's campaign, Sapani has managed to stay out of the fray, so to speak, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Sapani's like Venice, but also kind of like Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, they're doing it here for a reason, because technically it's neutral ground.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And also, you want to stay out of all those big fucking wars that bankrupt you.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And of course, Sartorius is a man of the people.
Yes.
Supposedly, at least on the surface.
Yeah, I mean, there is a slight implication with like tradition and how he's the first counselor and everything like that, there's a possibility that he might be like elected, which would be hilarious.
Is it possible that there is a functioning democracy inside the First Law?
Disgusting. No wonder Baez wants to take over.
So yeah, I mean, our chancellors, because he's a chancellor, our chancellors elected?
Chancellor, yeah. No, I'm sorry.
A chancellor is effectively the same thing as like a minister or your
right. Okay.
senator or something like that. You know, it's the same word for the same thing, different word for the same thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's just interesting too because like it seems like the people of Sapani actually love Sartorius. Specifically because he's kept them out of the wars and everything like that. Like they don't care how old he is because he's fucking solid. He's actually a good leader.
Yeah. Although this next part makes me curious because Vitari goes. She remarks to Casca that it didn't stop him from taking Sartorius's coin when it all turned sour with Cephaline of Austria. So. He's
been involved at some point, yeah.
Was he involved like in a different kind of war at some point, maybe?
Well, Koska himself says earlier that he's been involved in like dozens and dozens of different wars over the last 30 years. And we know how volatile Styria is with all sorts of people. They're all declaring war on each other over this and that, and it lasts 6 months, and then they go back to being mates again, and it's just.
Right. Yeah, there's the Years of Blood have been going on for 20 years, right? Mm-hmm. And that happened. There's a time of peace before that, but Casca is in his 50s. So, I mean, even if it's 30 years ago, and Sartorius is fucking ancient as well. So, I mean, it could have been 30 years ago that they had something go down, and he was a young man, and that it's implied too. Whenever that all went down, that. He was, in fact, a fairly young man with Cephaline and all that stuff going on. So it does make sense, but...
Yeah. Okay, that does make sense for sure. So then, then after we see Sartorius... right before we see Sartorius, I do want to make a point that, that they said that Casca says that peaceful men find little work for mercenaries in the end, and that Sartorius has made a rich and glorious career from peace, and that Vitari jokes that it looks like he's hoping to make an export of it, as in I guess he's trying to she's making a joke that he's just trying to make more money somehow by establishing these peace talks or hosting these peace talks. And then Monza goes, nah, that's one thing that Orso will never be buying, so we can, I guess, assume that, the thinking is that Sapani, even though they want to be neutral, eventually Orso is going to want to bring them under the fold too.
Yeah, I mean, neutrality only lasts so long.
Yeah. So then we have the leaders of the League of Eight come in next. And this is the ragtag group of spunky lords and ladies that are standing up against the long arm of Orso. First up, we get Duke Rogant, some, I guess some tall, handsome dude. And then we had Duke Salier.
Yeah, I think.
Salier.
Yeah, it's Salier.
I always go off Stephen Pacey's pronunciations, but...
And Salier?
Salier.
Okay, got it. Salier.
He's a little bit like a sail, Salier.
Yeah, sailing.
Yeah, if he jumps high up in the
air. So
he'd just float away.
All right, so we get those two up first. We know that Salier is the Grand Duke of Viscerine, and Rogant is the Duke of Austria. He is the nephew of Cephaline. Right?
Yes. He's said that multiple times that that's his nephew. That he was her nephew and that he took over after her. So he's been in charge for some time, but it's maybe implied that he's not particularly super young, but he's also not as old as all these other guys who are running around in their 50s and 60s fighting wars and shit.
But as we'll find out now from this discussion, that he's absolutely morbidly obese.
Who, Salier?
Salier.
Yeah, Salier. Yeah.
I love this little joke that they have between each other. Like, how do you reckon they get him on his horse? It's like, is it a block and tackle? Or do you reckon do you dig a trench underneath him and ride the horse up? I feel sorry for that poor horse, and so should you, Jeff.
Horses.
You love your horsies.
I do love my horsies. I don't like when horsies struggle.
Yeah, it's bad for their backs.
Yeah. I can imagine the propaganda that Orso puts out about Celia.
Yeah. He's eating his citizens out of house and home.
Yeah. Look at him riding off to war on his mount, his poor mount. It shows like a pony, and he's like just consuming it, like on top of it with his fat ass.
He probably has people draw Duke Celia as like the Kool-Aid man on a little pony.
Yes, exactly.
no neck, just oh man, poor. Oh my god. Anyway, so they do note though, aside from the jokes, they note that he's going to be the Duke of Visserine for maybe another month or two because he squandered all of his soldiers in the summer down at the High Bank, and that his city's food in the autumn he squandered it because Monza burnt down the fields, and that he's running out of allies because Monza also had left Duke Cantain's head rotting on the walls of Borletta. So they're sweating.
We definitely get the idea that Celia isn't a particularly good tactical commander.
Yes, and we also get the idea. There's a lot of little references right here too, which I like. Which is, Borletta was the battle that they was the siege that Benna and Mons were talking about when they were riding back to Fontesarmo. So we know that kind of gives the time frame that that just happened, and Vitari also says like each time they mention one of his faults or something, some battle, she like looks at Monza all proud, like that was your doing, wasn't it? Vitari's such like a you go girl to Monza. It's a great.
For all the wrong reasons.
Yes, exactly. All the reasons that Monza hates to be appreciated, Vitari does as well, which is probably why she never acknowledges Vitari.
Yeah,
that's an interesting point. We should get into that another point as well, but we've got a lot to cover in this episode, so
yeah.
Yes.
So okay, so yeah, we already went through Duke Rogan, right? Explained him. And then, but they do talk about a couple of the nicknames they gave him. The Prince of Prudence, the Count of Caution, the Duke of Delay. A decent general by all accounts, but he doesn't like to take risk, right?
Yeah. Too cautious.
Too cautious. And Casca here is kind of coming to Rogan's defense, where he's like, it's smart to be cautious. You don't always want to necessarily fight. If you could avoid fighting, the better, the better for you.
He says every good general doesn't want to fight, and then Monza retorts with every good general has to fight sometimes.
Yeah, from time to time. And he's never fought more than a skirmish apparently, so he's the best withdrawer in Styria. And
Casca points out the important point that managing a withdrawal is the hardest thing that you could possibly do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And maybe that he just hasn't found his moment yet. Shivers goes, he's like, we're all just waiting for our moment.
I love the implication too. Like, I like how the three main characters right here, right, in this moment is Vitari, Casca, and Monza. That kind of like assessing the situation. Casca, maybe not feeling the best, but his mind is back. He's using all his knowledge and thought to kind of talk about these different groups. And Vitari has all this insider knowledge, and Monza has been fighting all this whole time, so they're all trying to figure out stuff. Friendly's counting, and Shivers is like, oh, he's just like staring at Monza's ass behind her, like just, oh, if only, oh, it's so silly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then at some point, as Rogan and Celia are passing underneath them, Casca kind of talks about, he goes like, if you live long enough, you see everything ruined. Capriel, a shell of her former glory. And Vitari here smiles at Monza, and she asks her, oh, that was one of yours, right? Monza doesn't answer, and I don't know if she gets a chance to or not, because in Casca, he also says, Muselia most shamefully capitulated to Orso in spite of her walls. And Vittori goes, isn't that one of yours too? Mm-hmm. And then Casca keeps going. He goes, Borletta fallen, Bold, Duke of Cantain dead. And then this time Monza just jumps in. She goes, yes, that was me too. God. Now that the League of 8 has been withered to a company of 5, will soon dwindle to a party of 4. And with 3 of those far from excited or pleased with the idea of the whole notion of the League of 8, as in they're not so keen to actually be a part of it at this point with all the progress that Orso has made with, led by Monza's army at the time.
Yeah.
Then we have, following them, we have Larosio, the Duke of Peranti, in elaborate armor.
And that's another one, Jeff. I think it's Larozio.
Larozio. Okay, that's hilarious. Elaborate armor and elaborate mustaches. Gotta love it. The young Countess Cortada of Afoya.
Perfect.
We're gonna pick somebody.
I know. Listen, folks, you knew what you were signing up for.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, the Italians are the only people you can still make fun of anyway, so it's fine.
that is so not true and almost racist. But all right. The Countess is a pasty girl that looks sickly, essentially, but she also has her uncle and first advisor, and some people say her first lover.
Oh God.
Hovering close at her shoulder, not liking the prevalence of incest and a lot of fantasy stuff. Like, guys, I know, historical fiction and everything, and incest was a thing. It's fantasy. You can make up your own fucking rules. Jesus Christ. Anyway.
I thought you liked Lord of the Rings, Jeff. I thought you didn't like Lord of the Rings. God damn it, I can't.
What are you talking about? I do like Lord of the Rings. I didn't read the books, though. I got to read them.
What? You haven't read them? Well, there's not incest in there. That's why I said that.
Oh, there's not incest in there?
No.
Well, then I would like Lord of the Rings. Absolutely.
Yeah. Exactly.
Did you not hear? Okay. George, what were you saying?
I just said I love how Joe randomly decides to just disturb you and then just immediately move on and never bring it up again.
Oh yeah, right. Excuse me.
It's just like, oh yeah, by the way, this young woman was probably groomed, and it just moves on. it's never brought up in any way or capacity ever again. Okay.
Right. I guess we'll just do fuck all with that information. Thanks, Joe.
But that's what I love about it. It kind of brings it up to sort of like a black comedy kind of level, if you know what I mean. So like, it's kind of funny that it's brought up and then never brought up again, because it's. Have you ever seen a film kind of like have you ever seen The Death of Stalin?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's really fucking dark.
But it's hilarious.
Loads of but it's funny, even though the jokes they're making are really like, ugh, that's a bit nasty. But it's so interesting the way that it kind of it can come off in all sorts of different ways, and so many people can get a different feeling from it.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
And Joe does that really, really well, because there's so many different opinions on this series for such a less followed series, not like Game of Thrones or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're getting off on a tangent.
Yeah, no, okay, no worries. And so we have the last lord, you could say. His name is Patine. He is the first citizen of Nicante. So it's Patine, first citizen of Nicante. His hair. His hair is all in shambles. He's dressed in a fucking like potato sack, and his belt is a rope, and it's all to show that he is no better than the lowest peasant in his care. But the real rumor was that he wears silk underpants and he sleeps on a golden bed, and he has plenty of company, as in AKA prostituzia. This man is he's just putting on a show, basically.
Yeah, we'll see more of him later on.
Yeah.
I love how it's like Sartorius is putting on a show, but this guy is putting on even more of a show.
Yeah,
I don't think Sartorius is putting on a show.
I don't think Sartorius is putting on a show.
I think Sartorius.
Oh, come on, no.
I think he's fighting for his life walking down that street, man.
Yeah, I think he's just. I think he's. You know, some old people just like refuse to die because they don't feel like their work is done yet. That's what Sartorius is. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like Sartorius is like what is he? I love the idea that he's like 95 and like fucking shit.
Has a giant a horn that he puts in his ear to hear people.
Yeah. That would be funny though if like they showed him at a battle and he just like takes off his robe and he's like got a six pack. You're like, holy shit.
So Sorius is ripped.
John Wick as a senior citizen. So then, and then Casca notes after they pass, Casca goes, "Oh, who are these people? Who are these young gods?" And then Manza noted that these people, they make a magnificent pair. They rode identical gray horses with the confidence that is just effortless. And basically, who are they talking about? None other than boy Giselle, his August Majesty High King of the Union, bam, and Therese, the Diamond of Talons, or the Jewel Talons, or right? Was that the Jewel Talons?
Jewel, I think, yeah.
I think it was Jewel Talons. They're just, they're stunting on these hoes, as the kids would say. They're just, they're flawless, and
they get more cheers than the actual rulers of Styria.
Yeah, that is true. Manza does note that, and I guess it could be because he's here trying to create peace, maybe, but also the fact that Therese is Orso's daughter. For some reason, they just, they love, they just love a pair that just looks the part. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's true for even real life, I would say. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and it's exactly what we've seen as well. Like the entire union to like outward facing bureaucracy is just a fucking facade. So the fact that everybody's cheering for them is just shows that that's working. Baez's plan is just, it's flawless.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Giselle plays the part there, doesn't he? Because he looks the part.
Yeah, he does look the part. This is very true. They make some comments in terms of, who does Giselle think he is? That, it's not like he's unbiased, right? And these
with also
you mean
being his
unbiased?
You talked over each other again.
Are you sure you don't mean unbiased?
Unbiased? I fucking hate you. George, go.
Well, the fact that also as his father-in-law might lend a better bias there.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you mean bias there?
Oh god. And then they're also talking, Vitaria and Manza are talking shit about all the jewels that Therese got. Jealousy's not a good look, ladies. It's not a good look. It's not hot. And then Casca basically says the same thing, and he thinks that she looks good. And she goes, he goes like, hey, friendly, right? And friendly goes, he just didn't say anything. And so Casca goes, all right.
Nothing better than saying, hey, look at that ass, and then you just get completely ignored.
You just get a bit of side eye, like.
And then Casca tries to go to Shivers. He goes, what about you? Don't you think she's good looking? And then Shivers, he looks at Manza real quick. He goes, I don't see what it's all the fuss about.
He's such a child.
He's such a simp.
He's like, oh no, I can't say I do like her in front of Manza. Manza made me think I don't like her anymore. Manza's like, just fucking shut up.
Yeah, for real. And then Casca goes, man, I don't know about you two, but whoo, my heart swoons for a young couple in love. And then Manza, I feel like Manza chirps in with this little bit for no reason other than to kind of just like rain on Casca's parade or something.
Yeah.
Because she just says, a few years ago, before she was a queen, Benna had a bet with me that he could actually sleep with her. And Casca goes, oh yeah, your brother liked to sleep around. That's right. So what were the results? And then all Manza says is that it turns out he wasn't her type. And in her internal monologue, she says, it had turned out that Manza interested Therese a great deal more than Benna ever could. Whoa. So unnecessary for Manza to just, I guess add that. I mean, I guess it makes sense. It's
So it's just something
I
that's
know what
already
you're saying.
established. You know?
It's contextual information. It could come off as jealous, but I mean, I don't know.
I think that there is a combination. She doesn't like that. It's kind of a multifaceted, right? She doesn't like people being happy at this moment in time. She's probably never been a big fan of it. Like if she sees people like living the life that they want to, because she's never got to live the life she's wanted to. And even though that's her fault and her choice, she's still kind of bitter about it. She's immature in that asset, in that way. I mean, but she also is acting that way too because, well, she doesn't like that Therese is in such a secure, safe position, and that's Orso's daughter. So she's like, "Oh, I don't like that."
So then, after Giselle and Therese pass by, we have all the, I guess you could say, a bunch of people from Midderland, the lords of Midderland, Angland, and Starkland, right? Men at arms. It's a lot of people, right? And then Shivers kind of notes that he goes, so he's the king of the Union. That there's the most powerful man in the circle of the world. Name drop. And Vitari goes, that's the man that stands behind, the most powerful man actually stands behind. Everyone kneels to somebody. And I like how she goes, you don't know much about politics, huh? And Shivers goes, about what? And then so Vitari explains to him that the cripple rules the Union, and we know this to be Glocta, and that Giselle is basically the mask that Glocta wears, which is funny because that's what Vitari thinks, but we know that the real ruler of the Union is Baez, and Glocta is the mask that, well, Giselle's still the mask, but he wears it through Glocta, I guess you could say. So,
but I like the fact that they kind of allude to the fact that they're all aware that all of this political stuff is happening. But none of them are aware that, Glocta is also controlled by Baez.
Yeah.
So that's how, there's still an extra layer to it, like no matter how aware somebody is.
Yep. That's how in the shadows Baez is,
That's where the true power lies.
Yeah, the true power lies in the shadows. Okay, Robert Downey Get too close to the sun. You die, stupid. Then after them, we get the stars of the show in a certain ways. We get the last two, the people that Monza has been waiting to see, Ario and Foscar. And I love the description here, where it's like they're both on a carriage, right? And Ario is sitting draped over some cushions, just swaying gently with the movement of the carriage, his little look of lazy contempt smeared all across his face. And then Foscar, he's sitting, bolt upright, and he keeps like looking around at each and every perfect description. She says preening tomcat and eager puppy dog placed neatly together. I think that is just a fantastic depiction of an image in your head,
Yeah, definitely.
And then Monza in her internal monologue, she notes that Gaba had been nothing, Malthus had been just a banker, so why kill him anyway? Orso would scarcely have remarked on those two when they've been replaced, but Ario and Foscar being his sons, his flesh, his future, if she can kill them, it's the next thing to killing Orso himself. She gets real happy about this, about imagining somebody running up to Orso and going, "Your Excellency, your sons, they're dead." And then we hear somebody.
So I agree actually now with Joe. He should never do a book inside of Kanta because it would not be good for us on the Circle of the World podcast.
No.
Oh god, no, it definitely wouldn't be.
Now I want to.
We're gonna have enough of a problem when we get to Ishri later.
Oh, what are you talking about? Ishri's dope. Fucking love Ishri.
Yeah, but you should hear the accent in the book, Jeff, in the audiobook.
I don't know what accent she has in the audiobook, but we did Pharaoh. That was fine. She was French.
French is fine. You can make fun of the French.
Yeah, okay. So what? You're saying I can't make fun of fictional characters? Oh, you stop it. Anywho,
We'll get away with it, like just like we usually do.
Yeah. Look. It's different, all right? It's just different. It's fantasy. Anywho. Then somebody in the crowd, kind of snaps Monza out of her little daydream. Again, she hears screams of murderers, scum, Orso's bastards, and then we almost as close to somebody throwing like pies at the kids, at the sons, at the point. And then the men at arms, they get, they draw their swords, they get ready, they kind of close ranks a little bit. Foskar, he gets a little anxious, but Ariel just kind of pulls him down. He's like, dude, don't even worry about it. And he's just washing his fingernails. And then whatever disturbance was, it's done with. It was nipped in the bud. But we see that there's still a lot of resentment, even in Sampani, even in a place that's neutral, for Orso's campaign to be king of Styria. And then they disappear. They all disappear into, I guess, the building of. They go into a warehouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Casca, notes that the show's over, and then they all turn away, and then they start walking through back to inside their house, and then Friendly just out of nowhere says 1,812, and Monza goes, what? And he just says people in the parade, and Monza goes, and then Friendly takes this cue as a cue to go 105 stones in the queen's necklace. The fuck?
That's insane.
And then
this dude has fucking eyes of a hawk. What the fuck?
And ears of a fox.
Seriously. And then, but he also does not recognize rhetorical questions, because she goes, did I fucking ask? And he just simply says, no. And he just walks in.
I love that, like, in this whole chapter, like, Monza, like, she goes from, like, she spits in she just spits off the side of the balcony onto the crowd. Like, whoever got spit on, that sucks balls. And then she, like, anytime somebody mentions, hey, they look kind of nice, she's like, no, fuck them. I'll fucking kill them. She's just, like, so angry because she's kind of, forcing it. She's annoyed by everything Shivers does. And then she's like, Friendly, you want to fucking fight? You want to be a smart ass? And he's like, no. and that's it.
What a Chad.
You're stupid.
And I almost guarantee you Friendly probably was like only counted the people in the parade because he couldn't count the people out on the outside. He's like, well, I gotta count something.
Oh man. And then after Friendly leaves, she stands there alone, and she's just kind of just thinking about the parade. She's tense, which makes sense. She just saw Ariel and Foskar, especially when considering Ariel, who was present and stabbed Benna in the neck. She's not having good. She's not feeling good right now. But then she realizes that she's not alone, because Shivers is there. He goes, Monza. He goes, and he wants to say something to her. He goes, look, it seems like we haven't really, since Westport. I just kind of wanted to. And then she just cuts him off, says, yeah, best if you don't, and just walks away. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate that?
Well, I think this chapter is like one of those chapters that, like, you get a lot of like context and world building that you don't get very often inside of Joe's chapters and books. So I like that. And but also, like, they are just sitting up on a balcony, just looking down. And we don't really get that much character building either. It's mostly just lore inside of a creative way. So I think I would give it a 6 out of 9.
6 out of 9. Okay. All right.
I like the lore stuff.
Yeah, the lore stuff is good, of course. Georgie?
I do like the lore stuff, and I like all the posturing between the various characters. Like, they're all given various political opinions and things about the past. We get a load of stuff about Casca and Monza and Shivers a little bit as well. Not a lot about Friendly, even though it's from his point of view. I feel like Friendly tends to be a bit of a passive kind of observer, And I think that's it works because it totally makes sense for his character. He's just standing doing his own thing. He's like, kind of listening to what's going on. I like that kind of fly on the wall style of storytelling where you don't really get anybody's kind of POVs,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of have to work it out. And I think I'm going to give this one a 7, actually.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. All right.
I really do like this chapter, and like you said, Harrison, as well. There's the law stuff as well. It's funny, and I'm really impressed that he can write something like this. That's a reasonably long chapter, and all takes place on a balcony between people talking about other characters.
Mm.
Yeah,
I think that's
by no means bored when normally I would be in a chapter like this.
Mm.
Exactly. What about you, Jeff?
I'll give it a 5 out of 9. I liked it. I thought it was good, but it's mainly lore. We don't get like faces to names because we can't see them, but we get introduced to the League of Eight. We get reintroduced to Ariel and Foscar. They're in proximity. We get reintroduced to Giselle and Therese, which we love, right? We love that for them, as the kids say. And they, just giving background and lore, which is cool. It's great. And, there is some great funny moments here, but in terms of driving the plot forward, action steps, not really much. We just know now that the boys are in town. The targets are here. So that's pretty much it for me. How we feeling?
That's good. That's good. I also want to bring up as well the point that you mentioned earlier, Jeff, that we get a lot of these characters sort of character sense, their essence of who they are as a person. But Joe very, very rarely describes what somebody looks like. Like, for example, does Friendly have hair?
Yeah, but close crop.
Does he like? That's the one time he mentions it, and it's like that's it. He never mentions it again.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
you don't get eye colors, hair colors.
Well, we do with Yoru Sulfur.
Except Yoru Sulfur. It's the one exception.
I think he does such a good job at telling us enough description to get us the idea. Like, if it's essential to who they are as a character, sometimes the looks matter more than compared to others. Like, he always mentions the most noticeable things, right? It's like, if you met these people, these are the things you would notice. If you saw Duke Rogan, you'd be like, that's a handsome bastard right there. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's probably all you'd really think. Friendly, you might notice his hair's short, and that'd be like an aspect of his character. But people like Logan, where his face is always battered and scarred. People don't notice his eyes, they notice his scars and his lanky hair. It's just so I think it works pretty well. But I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm. And also works like with Baez his bald pate, as he says a lot, and as well as his beer belly. We know about that.
Yeah, Monza is always. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Jeff. Oh, Harrison.
I just was to say Monza is always described as having very like black midnight, raven hair, and then the blue eyes, and that's always really the only description we get from her.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that the way that Joe kind of lets you imagine the characters.
Yeah,
and you kind of have your own sense. You kind of imprint on these characters what you want to see in them, and that's why there's so many different opinions on these books about how characters should look. I think that's just so interesting.
Yeah,
he gives you,
and different people will notice different things too. That's what's great about it. It's just like if he describes them the way we would see them, so people take different interpretations on that.
Yeah, he gives you just enough of a framework, right? Just so okay, generally this is what they kind of look like, but then we kind of just are allowed to really, wide variety of terms of what we imagine these characters to look like.
Mm-hmm. And he also avoids the pitfall that George R.R. Martin fell into with Renly, when I think in one book he's described as having blue eyes and another one in green eyes, and he got fucking hounded about it at a convention.
He does that. He's done that before, Martin, where they're like, wait a minute, this minor character that you throwaway line, you said they had auburn hair, but then this bitch turned out to have black hair in the Storm of Swords. What's going on here? It's like, dude. Yeah, lie.
It's just like, who gives a fuck? And Judge just focuses on what's important, which is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Very true. So that's that. Alrighty, so now we'll move on to our next segment, which is our character spot. Boys, who are we highlighting today?
Chancellor Sartorius, ruler of Sapani for the past 94 years.
This dude just refuses to die, doesn't he?
Was he like Aragorn? He's just long lived.
Yeah.
But he doesn't age as gracefully though. Oh, it's great. So okay, we're going to talk about Sartorius. What's good about him? Talk to me.
I like that. Like, even though he's old and stuff, like every now and then, and I think some other authors do the same thing. Like, if an old person arrives in this kind of like grim, dark world, they know what they're doing, and they are, they know how to play the game, and everyone thinks of them as old and behind, but they don't. It's very unlike our real world where all the old people are in charge and they all suck. If you had an old ruler like super long time ago, more than likely they're probably gonna know what they're doing and they're wiser and everything like that. Not always, of course, but the odds of some bad, terrible, shitty ruler living such a long time is usually less likely. So
yeah, I would say there's a certain vetting process, one would say. Right?
Yeah, it's called what's that term for natural selection?
Murdering that fucker.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. I mean, bad politicians definitely have less stakes and consequences now than they used to.
We should bring back. We really should bring.
You know what the Dutch did? They ate their prime minister.
Yeah, put him on the chopping block, literally. What did the Dutch do?
The Dutch literally ate one of their prime ministers.
All right, that's interesting.
Well, that's one way to go about it.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway, so Chancellor Sartorius.
Never visiting the fucking Netherlands. Good fucking lord. Holy shit.
We really don't get like much out of him. We will see him again, but we don't get much out of him in terms of like personality, things like that. Yeah. But there's like Joe's really good at showing a character's attributes, or at least what a character, how they want to be seen. Like a presence felt throughout a book, and so you can't feel Sartorius's presence, or you can feel Ben's presence in Monta's POV throughout the entire book, right? But Sartorius, you know he's there, and so when they mention him, each time they mention him, you feel like you get a good sense of who he is, even though it's just a few lines here or there, or an action here or there he takes, and he's pretty formidable. I mean, I would say I probably. I'd be careful.
You would be careful.
I mean, it takes a lot of fucking skill to be able to keep a country or a faction neutral when every other person is fighting.
Yes, and your nation and your own nation liking you for it, like without
right.
Yeah.
Well,
without
because
being overthrown.
Right.
Yes.
Well, because people don't like going to war. They initially will be like, you have to. People really only support, war. I say generally, your average citizen, whether it's like, all right, we gotta get revenge because these cocksuckers attacked us first, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Or so then like,
if you're defending yourself.
No, actually, if you're defending yourself, because even in World War II, I was gonna say, obviously with a certain mustachioed gentleman over there in Europe, it was like, oh, we had to jump in, but we didn't even jump in until the Japanese attacked us. So, yeah, it's really more like that's when people are okay with going to war, but unprompted, especially like if Orso hasn't gone after Sapani.
Yeah,
he should be celebrated. Good job, Sartorius. I like that.
Yeah. And he the fact that like I think it's admirable that he's liked by his people, probably for the same reason he gets kept out of wars, but he's like presumably 80s, 90s years old, and he's just walking this whole parade at the front of it as an old man. Like, he's stooped over and stuff. He doesn't care. He's like, this is my job. This is what I have to do. I know maybe he's a scumbag. Maybe he does some like fucked up things in the shadows, but he knows what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So Respect.
He does know what he's doing. George, you want to add anything to our little?
He's probably the only competent ruler in the whole circle of the world.
No.
So competent and sympathetic.
I don't know.
Listen,
I will. Yeah, I will say that I'm not sure I feel that way, George, but he is definitely, from what we know about him, if I was to make a tier list about leaders or rulers, he'd definitely be closer to the top.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's a little tease for the future, though. Go on, Harrison.
Yeah, I just came up with it right now. So
nice, like that. All right. So, do we have anything to add to the laundry list of qualities for Sartorius, or
no? I think we're good now. I think we're good.
Okay. All right.
This is now the Sartorius fan.
The fan page
podcast. Yeah.
So that was one of the longest character spots ever, and it was like a character with like three fucking sentences.
Hilarious. It's true. He didn't even say a word, I don't think. So move on to our second chapter read through, which is Cooking Up Trouble. So we start off from the perspective of Nkomo Casca. He has woken up. He's creeping down to the kitchen to try to steal some wine because our man is going through with Charles. And who does he see but Friendly at the stove making breakfast? He goes, son of a bitch. But he does have to admit that he was strangely glad to have Friendly there. There was something almost magical about his aura of calmness. He had the utter confidence to stay silent and simply not care what anyone thought. So it's enough to take Casca that rare step towards calmness himself, but not silence. He likes talking, and he's been talking since he went down the stairs. And he's just pontificating to Friendly about like why is he doing this? He's breaking the first rule of a soldier. And Friendly goes, first? He's just confused. He's still cooking.
No, he's like a number. Oh, I am listening now.
He's like sequential. Tell me more. And then Casca, tells him that never fight for the weaker side. I hate Orso, but the difference between hating him and actually doing something about it is, oh, Jesus. And especially not for just, on behalf of a woman who has already betrayed him once. Dun, dun, dun. Then he thinks back 9 years of wasted years. 9 wasted years to Afieri. Back when, him and Monza had staged the fake skirmish. At least in his mind, it was a fake skirmish. And that's what he thought it was up until the charge led by Monza's army did not let up and crashed into Casca's side. And, Casca is just... he's remembering that like mix of fury, despair, drunkenness, disgust, ever since that day.
And again, I can see how this can tie into a black comedy kind of thing because I can see this being shot as sort of like slapstick. And he's just doing like this really bad, overactive facial expression, and just like no,
yeah,
it's like slow motion. Like I could definitely see that as sort of like
you know what that reminded me of?
Go on.
Did you ever see Kung Fu Panda?
Which one?
The first one.
Yeah.
So when Tai Lung, the snow leopard, starts running after him, and he's like, and he goes, no. he turns in fear. That's what I imagine Casca doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Somebody make a meme and put Casca's qualities onto the panda. I forget his name. What's the panda's name? Po? Cow? Cole?
Po. It's Po.
Po.
Yeah, I think you were right the first time.
Whatever, one of those. Anyway, and then as Casca is, thinking about these memories, he kind of gets a little bit, despondent a little bit. He talks about how the memories of our glories fade and they rot away in half-assed anecdotes. The failures, disappointments, the regrets, they stay raw as ever. And he just goes on about this.
He has it's a whole monologue. It's actually it's a really good monologue. Actually, all of Casca's monologues are like fire.
Yeah, they are. I'm debating. Should I read it out loud or should I not?
Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
All right. So Casca goes, the memories of our glories fade and rot away into half-assed anecdotes, thin and unconvincing as some other bastard's lies. The failures, the disappointments, the regrets, they stay raw as the moments they happened. A pretty girl's smile, never acted on. A petty wrong we let another take the blame for. A nameless shoulder that knocked us in a crowd and left us stewing for days, for months, forever. This is the stuff the past is made of, the wretched moments that make us what we are. And then Friendly's just kind of quiet. He's just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is a really excellent. It's like not just because he has a great monologue, but because it shows that, well, one, he's actually clear-headed. This is how Casca thinks normally. He no wonder he drinks because he's stuck on this, he's got this very pessimistic view and everything like that, but he shows to be, he's very intelligent, and like very insightful and very, he thinks things through, and he just doesn't ever like play it out though. And because Friendly is not a distraction, he just really is by himself, but he feels like he has to fill in the space. He just talks it out to himself, and not only now does he physically and mentally note it, but like in the book there is a change in Casca here, and it's just really well done, this little scene. I think.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And as you pointed out, Harrison, he's stuck in this negative feedback loop, right? And,
yes.
And then it gets even worse when he goes, like none the more bitter than the moment that Monza turned on him, and that he should be taking his revenge out on her instead of helping her get her revenge. He should kill her and Dishe, Cesaria, and Victus, and all those other bastards. So what the fuck is he doing here? And then Friendly goes, talking? The man is as literal as ever. And Casca goes, I always had poor judgment when women were where women were concerned. And he's always had terrible judgment pretty much on every issue, he said. And he's being honest here. And, he says, fuck the past. I am Nokomo Casca, damn it. I laugh in the face of fear. Ha 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 ha. That's a Simba moment. And then he goes, I am going to go back to bed. And he goes, many thanks, Master Friendly. You make as fine a conversationalist as any man I know. And Friendly, he looks confused for a moment. He goes, I hardly said a word. And Casca goes, exactly. And boom, we get a break, which I think is hilarious. And then we go to more Veer's perspective.
And they're all making breakfast. I like that Friendly's making breakfast when Casca comes downstairs. And also, he didn't talk about the fact that this ties into his alcoholism. Because he comes down to get a drink and Friendly's just like looking at him. And he's like, maybe I'll put that back. Yeah.
Damn, bro. Yeah, you're right. And so Morveer, what he's doing is he's got his breakfast lined up like George said, but his breakfast is a unusual combination. At first, it is tasteless oatmeal and some tea and water. And then he has a bunch of different vials, bottles, jars, tins. Basically, these are all the various, I guess, poisons that Morveer works with. And I'm not sure. I don't know if we are sure. Harrison, feel free to jump in and correct me, please. But I'm not sure if they've been diluted to a point at all or anything. Or maybe he just uses very minuscule amounts.
Well, I think that would be my area of expertise, Jeffrey.
Oh, okay. Archlector.
Yes, he is. Well, he is George Schecter. He's been poisoning people for a long time, Jeffrey.
I do. I'd like to point it out. I do have a science degree. Uh-huh.
Okay, so let me say what he's doing physically, and then jump in.
Sure.
So Morveer is taking all these, these bottles, these tins, these jars, these vials, taking the contents, and he basically either ingests them or he, pricks his skin with the needle, dipped in them. And I guess this is to continuously inoculate himself from these poisons. George, you want to jump in?
Inoculate would be the wrong word because inoculate is
you're right.
Suggests that it's a bacteria or an infection.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas what we're talking about is it's just a tolerance.
Building a
tolerance. Lecter, I had no idea you were talking to the Adeptus Chemical.
Maybe I should change my title to the Adeptus Medical.
No, you are the Adeptus Chemical.
Continue, George. So is he?
So with well, you don't really necessarily have to dilute them. You just have to get a smaller amount of them.
Mm-hmm.
Every chemical has something called an LD50, which is basically the statistical chance that there's a 50-50 chance if you have this much, then you'll die.
Okay.
So what you just got to do is start out at 10% of that, and then just work up, and eventually that LD50 for you goes up. So the chances that you'll die from a certain dose go down.
Okay, interesting. And so the point that correct me if I'm wrong, George, is as he's going through this, right, this little procedure, his routine, is he takes some water, eats some oatmeal, takes some of the these poisons, then continues repeats, right? Takes some oatmeal, and that's to help him just kind of shove it down, or
I mean with any kind of
medicine or something.
She'd say medicine or drug or anything that affects you pharmacologically. You just need something else to kind of help it digest and mix. Otherwise, you just get because a lot of these chemicals are very, very harsh, so they cause reactions. Hence, why you get, if you have to do a lot of injections and stuff like that, you end up with big welts and rashes and things because it's just not something that should be happening to the body on a regular basis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah, that makes sense. And so he probably wants something like oatmeal because it's tasteless. He doesn't want to actually have something that's good because it's just going to ruin the taste.
I think he's just a miserable bastard, to be honest. I think he tortures himself, and it's like, oh, poor me, I have to eat this porridge every day. But he doesn't. He can have whatever he wants.
Right, but I mean, when he's not doing this, we see him enjoying delicious foods.
I guess. I mean, maybe this is just part of the discipline. Then he's just sort of I need to read some books about actual poisoners in real life. I don't think there are any famous ones that I can name.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely not going to put you on a watch list. You should definitely do that, George. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm already on the watch list. Don't worry.
You are. I know I am. I'm not even going to tell you why I'm on the watch list. Actually, I'll tell you. When I was in middle school, I downloaded the Anarchist Cookbook, and
oh, mate, same.
So, shit. So I guess we're all on the watch list. All right, fuck it.
No, wait, the Anarchist Cookbook. Hang on.
Harrison, don't look it up. Don't look it up.
No.
It's based on a real book, Harrison. The Anarchist.
Is it actually?
Anarchist Cookbook. The Anarchist Cookbook is basically a recipe book full of how to make IEDs and Molotov cocktails and stuff like that.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
like a hitman wrote it or something.
Yeah, exactly. How to be a terrorist 101.
Yeah, and although I don't know if is it real? Like, is it actually does that stuff even apply? That's a whole other thing. We'll talk about that another time.
It's the same with anything, isn't it? You can learn how to do anything. It's just how you apply it that matters.
Yeah, true. So he's going through this. He does this thing where I thought Joe was gonna do the rule of 3 here, but he doesn't. He takes one certain poison. He goes and he gets sick. He gets dizzy. He says, "Damn larynx." And then he takes another one. He goes,
that's another thing. That's something I had to look up. I'm really sorry to interrupt you, Jeff, but
what?
I didn't know what a tincture was.
Isn't that like a very tiny?
So a tincture is like an old word for basically any plant or animal cells that have been diluted in alcohol.
Okay.
So you were right when you said diluted earlier.
Interesting. Look at that. Boom. Bada bam. Bada bam. Okay, thank you for that, George. He says the damn larynx. He says damn mustard root. He got sick off of that, and then he kept, he just keeps taking these poisons. So I thought there was gonna be another time where he goes, the damn whatever, but he doesn't.
I'd also like to point out that none of the names that Joe uses are real. They're all just completely made up. Like,
right. Yeah, I mean,
I did a little bit of research because I was curious, but yeah, it's all made up. What the fuck a larynx is? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I like that he does that though, rather than trying to find like actual like thing, because then people would be like, "That's not actually a real poison." Like, just like we do over the top.
We get it. Right?
Exactly. It's like it'd be like I like that because it's not realistic for characters to talk about common things. Like if somebody came back in time and asked you, "What is that?" and they point at your TV, you wouldn't be able to like come up with like a nice line to come out with to what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's an electronic backboard that it just has a display that is put up through a blacklight, which is connected to the internet." Like, you would just be like, "It's a TV, bro. What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So just to get back to the chapter read through, he takes some more of these poisons. He does the routine. It's necessary for him to build up that tolerance, like George said. He at one point gets just gets sick and dives for the window and just yaks out the window. And he starts thinking about his past, right? Where he's thinking about like it's what he's had to do in order to excel has been underappreciated, right? Like the other children in the orphanage never appreciated his talents. Neither had his own master, the infamous Mumma Yinbek. Morvir's wife had not appreciated him. Wonder what happened there. His many apprentices had not. Wonder what's happened there. And it seems like even now Monza, his newest employer, has no appreciation either. To the point that Nakomo Waska, that dissolute old wineskin, is afforded greater respect than him. How dare he?
I love that dissolute old wineskin. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And then I like how he murmurs to himself. He goes, "I am doomed to give and get nothing in return."
Oh, he's so whiny. I fucking hate him. I hate him so much.
I know,
but I love him.
Yeah. And then Day knocks on the door. She asks him if he's ready. He's like, "Yep, he'll be ready soon." That they're getting everybody ready to downstairs. That they need to be off to Cardati's already to lay the groundwork. And then he says he'll catch up with her. And then he kind of looks in the mirror. And he kind of, I guess he has to continue with the routine before he goes downstairs. Then we get another break. We cut to Shiver's perspective now, and they are walking towards Cardati's, right, fellas? At this point,
yeah,
they're walking towards Cardati's. Shivers is dressed in a leather tunic with fur, a big round wooden shield, and a heavy sword. Greylock has an iron mask covering his whole face, a great club with iron studs, and Shivers was explaining to Greylock how to they're going over the show, they're rehearsing. Either way, I need to make a correction. It's not Shivers' perspective; it's Friendly's perspective. They're looking at they're at the warehouse floor before they leave, right, to go to Cardati's, and he's counting the entertainers. There's 25 of them if Friendly counts himself. There's 3 Gurkish dancers. He's just counting everybody. Then he's describing Shivers and Greylock going over the rehearsal of their show. Then he talks about Barty and Kummel, who are the acrobats. He talks about the incredible Ronco, and then the 3 jugglers. And then others are lounging on crates. They're getting ready. They're just kind of getting ready. And then Friendly hardly recognizes Casca, who's dressed in a velvet coat heavy with silver embroidery and a tall-ass hat and a long black cane with a golden knob at the end. I can just
like Willy Wonka.
Yeah, but like an alcoholic Willy Wonka, right?
Alcoholic. Like you said, Willy Wonka isn't an alcoholic. You've seen that film. He's definitely an alcoholic.
And then but he looks good. He waxed his mustaches. His boots have been polished. He has a nice looking mask, and he walks towards Friendly. He's excited to see him. He goes, I hope you are well. My thanks again for your ear this morning. Because again, Friendly lended a listening ear. And
Yeah.
Friendly, in his internal monologue, notes that like he nods and he's trying not to grin. And I like this little callback. It says, there was something almost magical about Casca's aura of good humor. He had the utter confidence to talk and talk and know that he would be listened to, laughed with, and understood. It almost made Friendly want to talk himself. We love the. I like the
love
input
it.
here.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love that.
It's adorable.
It's incredible that Friendly gets this kind of. Oh, I love it that he's just found his mate. It's like, oh yeah, I love it.
It's one of the most like. I'm like reading this book and like realizing that there's gonna be like this little connection between them in this way, and I was like, this is so cool. It's like a little tiny subplot in here in interpersonal relationship, and I like that so much. It's just such a cool little facet of the book.
Yep. And I like also another development here is that Casca, he gives Friendly a mask, and the mask is in the shape of a pair of dice, right?
Yeah.
Like snake eyes with where the eye holes would be. And then he says, I hoped you might do him the favor. Well, no, Casca says, I hoped you might do me the favor of minding the dice table tonight. And Friendly takes the mask with shaking hands, and he's like, I would like that very much.
It's adorable.
Oh God.
I love it.
Yeah.
And again, Joe can make these weird ex-mercenaries and serial killers just like so relatable.
Well, I don't know if Friendly's a serial killer because he's not like a compulsive.
A serial criminal.
Serial criminal. Just can't help himself, I guess.
Isn't
exactly.
serial? Once a criminal, always a criminal. And just criminals.
All right, as Harrison's southern attitudes coming out there.
Oh my God! It's a joke, damn it! It's a goddamn joke.
We gotta keep it consistent, bro.
So there's another break, and then we're at the perspective of Shivers, and now they're walking towards Cardati's, and there's fog, there's other people that are going to parties and stuff, and it's the time for mask. I guess it's since the one ball is a mask ball, there's gonna be a lot of other people that are wearing masks, right? Or maybe is it a holiday? We don't know. I don't know. Do you know, Harrison?
I'm pretty sure it's just a party, right? Like the whole point of the Cardati's experience is that you can do whatever you want, be whoever you want. Mm-hmm. So the big part of masks, like at parties, is the fact that people don't know who you are, and you're playing a character, or you're it's inconspicuous, and everybody, it's that kind of idea. So I do believe that it's just part of Cardati's feel, because whenever we get back to Cardati's many years later, they also wear masks at that time as well. So I think it's just the Cardati's experience.
Yeah.
Like when you go to a bar and they've got that gimmick.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, except
Cardati's just has a really good advertising team.
And another thing about this is that Shivers, he's not used to this, but with all the fog and all the people coming in and out of the fog with all these masks, he's reminded of battles in the North. He's reminded of Logan's bloody nine manic smile covered in blood.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
It puts Logan into a perspective that we don't normally see him in, and but the more you read it, the more it clicks, and the more each time that you look back on the trilogy and it says Logan gave that smile without smiling in his eyes, and he cocks his head to the side. It just disturbs you. You're like, somebody that can be that terrifying with just one look.
Oh God.
Yeah.
God,
yeah. Yep. And Shivers, he points out, like you said, that when you put a mask on a person, something weird happens. Is like they not only change the way they act, they change the way they act along with the way they look. It's almost as if, they actually are pretending to be someone else. So therefore they're going to act as if they are someone else there. And this can extend into, crimes and stuff. Actually severe, acts that, can hurt people, we'll say. So then Casca is leading them towards Cardati's. We have some guards there that are like, hey, Cardati's is closed, brother. And Casca goes, nah, we are the entertainers for tonight's private function. We have been hired by Carlotte and Eider, and we need to get in so we can prepare. And so then, the guards let them in. And, Shivers, I guess, is a little let down from the state of Cardati's, especially during the daytime, right? Because
because it's this real famous place, right? And he just goes in, and it's like, it's just like a courtyard with a couple of tables in it, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, and let's say the employees are just kind of lounging around, just chilling, smoking, drinking,
Well, it's kind of like whenever you see something. Like you see something amazing, and then you see what it really is, or like you see the backstage of some kind of setup or a restaurant before it's open. It's like the weirdest shit ever. You're like, oh, I wish I would have seen this.
Yeah, definitely. If you ever been to your favorite nightclub in the daytime, at like 2:00 in the afternoon, or if you go into the kitchen at your favorite restaurant, you're definitely going to lose the illusion of. The kind of thing that they're trying to put up, the kind of business that they want to attract.
No, for sure.
Again, with Joe being such a psychologist, it's just also interesting that the way he kind of writes this all in, and that it makes us think of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that, especially like, if you worked in a restaurant, you just seen how things go in the back end, or if you worked at a bar or a club, you just know that what goes on at night looks very different during the day.
Oh yes,
yeah. So, and Casca, he notes this, because he could see Shivers kind of being confused or let down. He goes, "There's nothing more mundane or less arousing than a whorehouse in the daytime," and and then Casca goes, that he always thought it might be a fine enough life just being a whore. A successful one at any rate, because you get the days off, and when you are actually going to go to work, you can get most of it done lying down. And
such a man's point of view. It's so fucked up.
Seriously. And then Shivers goes, "Well, there's not much honor in it." But he does point out correctly, Casca, that honor doesn't even make flowers grow. Like shit is more useful. But then Shivers counters by like, what happens when you get old and no one wants you anymore? All that you're doing is just putting off the despair and leaving a pack of regrets behind you. And then Casca, because he just went through this with that conversation he had with Friendly, right? That he says that it's all any of us are doing. That every business is the same and theirs is no different. Soldiering, killing, whatever you want to call it, no one wants you when you get old. So one way or another, we're all of us whores. Which is, I feel like, is a
common theme in this
common
book.
Theme, yep. And then
it's also like major foreshadowing for Casca, and also like it's kind of true and kind of way too cynical at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a comparison to real life. I mean, what's the difference between selling your body sexually or selling your body by breaking your back doing labor for 60 years?
Yeah.
It's the same thing conceptually. I mean, there's a lot of ethical arguments going on there that we're not talking about, but
Right. And I mean, there's a lot that we could, unpack, but getting back, Shivers is looking at Cardati's and he hears a voice behind him. The voice says, "Oi." And he's like, "Huh, what is this?" And then it's a good-looking woman, right? Scantily clad, we can say. And he gets all flustered. He doesn't know where to look because he looked right at her cleavage, and he's like, is there so that I can help you with?" And then she goes, "I don't know, is there?" And he looks at her. He goes, "Wait a minute, is that Monza?" It is. Monza looking fine, and he goes, "Oh, you look," and he's trying
like a whore.
That's what. Yeah, Monza finishes his thought. He goes, "Like a whore," and he goes, "That's a pricey one, maybe."
A price. What a nice. The Riz coming off of Shivers is crazy.
Yeah, it's Riz.
He's doing the best he can.
Yeah, with what he's got, which isn't a lot. And then So, she goes, "Yep, I hate to look like a cheap one. Well, I'll see you upstairs. I'll see you later. I'm going upstairs. If anything, all goes well, I'll see you at the warehouse." And then he goes, "Yep." And he kind of like stops. He goes, "Are you going to be okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can handle Ario. I'm looking forward to it." And he goes, "All right, well, I'm just saying, if you need me." And she goes, "Look, just let me worry about me. You do what you got to do." And Shivers says that he's worried enough that he could spare some worry for her. And then as Monza's walking away, she goes, "I thought you were an optimist." And then he mutters to himself that he goes, maybe you talked me out of that." But he also didn't like that Monza talks to him in like, I don't want to say demeaning way, but close to it. And then he notices Greylock like staring at him. And then he goes, "What the fuck are you standing there for? Let's get this fucking circle, marked and, made out already."
I just want to say that I love the fact that we can see Shivers changing slowly. Like he slowly gets more cynical, and he's slowly like, well, maybe I shouldn't give a shit about this stuff. Mm-hmm. And even to the point where, if somebody glared at him like Greylock just did, he'd definitely have this kind of fucking sense that something was wrong in the north. But he's just kind of ignoring it, right? Like this is definitely from the text you can see like. This guy is going to start some trouble, but Shivers is just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, if anything else, right, because of how Casca reacted to him, because Casca's very good at reading individuals.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's true. But we can't. I'll leave this in, but
we'll find out next week.
Even from Shivers' perspective, he says he glares at him. Nobody gives a glare without wanting to kill them. Like, it's the first law. It's the circle
I think we need to think about this though. Let's think about this for a moment. Greylock is sitting there staring at him while he's having this conversation. I guess we'll get more into it next week, but it is. I think context matters. He doesn't know. What is it called? Styrian, I guess. So who knows why he's looking at him? But maybe he heard him say something. He understood. I don't know.
Oh, right. Because of the language barrier. Because Greylock doesn't speak Styrian, even though he's there for some reason. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that. Actually.
Yep. So then there's
but it's ambiguous, which is nice. Sorry, Jeff.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it is ambiguous. And so we get we cut over to now Monza's perspective, and she's walking with Casca down the hallway in the building of Cardati's, and she meets up with Carlot Dan Eider, and Monza goes, "Oh, look at us, a general dressed like a whore and a whore dressed like a queen. Everyone's pretending to be someone else tonight." Now, Monza does not need to be mean to Carlot. She really doesn't.
It's just so unnecessary.
It's so unnecessary. Like, I know, like, okay, Vitari and Carlot have a history. Okay, from Dagaska. Makes sense. Monza does not need to be a bitch here. She's being a bitch to Carlot.
It's also funny that she's a bitch to Carlot, seeing as, Monza has a few moments like with Vitari and Day and things like that, or even Ishri and things like that, where she's like, "You're a woman, you kind of understand my position." But
Girl
with
power.
Carlot and Ida, she's still like, she treats him like a man, like, "I have to be hard on you because fuck you."
because you're sucking Ario's dick.
Yeah, you disgust me, you whore.
Yeah. And then Carlot's like, "Yeah, that's politics. All right, so who's this?" And she looks over at Casca, and Casca, because he's wearing the mask, she doesn't recognize him. He takes off his hat, and then he goes, "Magister Eider, what a delightful and unexpected honor. I had never dreamed the two of us would ever meet again." And she kind of goes, "What the fuck?" Because I thought you died in Dagaska. And he goes like, "Yeah, I thought so too, but turns out I was just hammered, baby."
I love this too, because you can tell Casca's got this. He's got this. He's got a little skip in his step. He's back, baby.
And she goes, "Yeah, you weren't so drunk that you couldn't stop your way from betraying me." And he goes, "Yeah, well, it's always a crying shame when honest people are betrayed. When it happens to the treacherous, though, well, one cannot avoid a certain sense of cosmic justice." And he laughs at the situation. He goes like, 3 people as loyal as us, all on one side. Oh, I can't wait to see how this turns out. Oh, we love the foreshadowing here, don't we? And then Monza asks Carla, when are they getting here? Ario and Foscar? And she says that, when Sartorius's grand ball begins to break up around midnight or just before. So they'll be waiting. And then Carla asks for the antidote because she feels like she's done her part. But Monza goes, no, you get it after Ario's head is, Ario has been delivered to her, basically. Because she's not taking any chances. And Eider isn't like thrilled with the prospect of trusting Monza's word, but it's all she got. And she kind of just brings this up out of nowhere, where she goes like she tried to do the right thing in the Gaska, that she tried to save people and look at what it's cost her. Because of that, she was removed her position as head of the Guild of Spicers. I think it was the Mercers. Spicers. Mercers were the other people. And she goes, look what it's cost me. And Monza goes, well, there's a lesson there about doing the right thing, but I've never had that problem. And then Carla is upset. She goes, do you know what it's like to live in fear every moment? Then Monza gets like annoyed at this. She walks right up to her and says, well, that's my fucking world. Now stop bitching and get ready to smile for Ario and everybody else, and then bring him to us, him and his brother. You do that and you still might get a happy ending. And then she goes, she knew that neither one of them thought that very likely, as there would be precious few happy endings to tonight's festivities. And then we cut over to Morvir's perspective again. Him and Day are in the attic of the top room, I guess you could say, or top level of Cardati's. And they're drilling little holes in the ceiling to where they can peep through and see what's going on. And Morvir compliments Day on her perfect positioning. And he's realizing that he's depending on her more and more. And there's, he's growing. He's like, there's a growing affection there.
Nah. Even to the point that it starts making the reader uncomfortable. Yes.
Yeah. Morvir definitely has a very unhealthy relationship with, everyone, but Day in particular.
So you think it's unhealthy? I at first I wasn't sure. Like when I first read the book for the very, very first time, I was wondering. I was like, "Oh, is he kind of looking at her as like a fatherly figure? Like if he's a fatherly figure to her?"
Well, that's the thing that makes it weird, right? Is he kind of does, like he kind of does, but he also kind of doesn't at the same time, which makes it even worse. If he thought of her as like, oh, he always kind of liked her ever since she started training with him and blah 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 blah. It's a little weird, but at least he always like saw her as that. But in this case, it's like, oh, I kind of see her as a daughter, and I like that. It's like, oh god, it's even worse. It's like,
I kind of agree with you, Harrison, there, but at the same time, I don't think it needs to be kind of sexual to be creepy. I think in a way he's just putting his own kind of ambitions and his own failures onto her.
Okay. Yeah.
And sort of instead of imagining her as her own person, he's just sort of trying to think of her as an extension of himself.
Yes, because he's a true narcissist. Yeah. And that we can talk more about that whenever we hear a bit more of his backstory with like how his relationship with his mom was, because that definitely plays into that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, and he does depend on it to the point like, he pats his jacket, his body. He's looking for something. He forgot his spare blowpipe, and what if he needs it? But then Day goes, "Oh, I brought 2 extra just in case." And he goes, "Oh, thank you so much. Where would I be without you?" And Day goes, "About where you are now, but with less charming company. Caution first, always." And he goes, "Yep, so true." And now they notice like, okay, here they come, Mercado and Vitari, and Monza kind of looks up at the ceiling because she knows that's where they're going to be at. She nods and she enters the bedroom, I guess we could say.
Yep.
And then so he tells Day that okay, they're here so far, everything's according to plan, but there's always time for disasters to strike. And then he asks Day to check on the yard, and so she crawls over there, and she says that it looks like they're getting ready to welcome the guest. And so like, what happens now? And Morvir kind of just like, he looks around and he thinks about it. He goes that the masked ball should be going on now at Sartorius's palace. which is on the far side of the canal. And then he says that now we just sit here in this attic, and then we just wait for His Highness Prince Ario to arrive. And that is the end of the chapter. Boys, how would you rate this chapter?
Well, this is a difficult one.
Yeah.
It is. There is a lot of. There's so many different. I really hate, like you say, Harrison. Like this chapter is meant to make you uncomfortable in certain ways. Like I hate the fact that Monza is just such a bully to somebody that she doesn't really have any reason to be.
Right.
But does that warrant a higher or a lower score? I don't know.
Yeah, like the whole thing is kind of like it's the chapter itself is just in a weird position. Like it's set up and like there's a normal like Casca's got this great thing in the beginning, which definitely gives it some really high points for me. But then the rest is kind of just like setup stuff, and it's like it almost feels unnecessary, but they're just like cementing some other things. And it's I don't know. It's kind of weird. Jeff, what are your thoughts? What would you rate it?
I will rate it. Like you said, it's tough. I feel like this is the calm before the storm. So I'm going to rate it a 6 and a knuckle. We moved from a place to another place. We have people taking their positions. We get, Casca, he's slowly kind of coming into his element, right? That loquacious, flamboyant guy that, is like, he gets excited. He laughs at danger, which we saw in Dagaska. We're getting Shivers getting ready to rehearse with with Greylock, but he's also like really anxious about what's about to happen to the point where he keeps, he's sparing worry for some. We see Friendly taking his position as the master of the dice table, which we know it warms his heart. So we see that developing, burgeoning friendship between Friendly and Casca, which we love that for them. We see Morveer's burgeoning hard-on for Day, which don't know if we like that. And then
also, I always had a hard time with this because with how he writes it out, it's implied that Day is very young, and it just makes it way more uncomfortable because
I think Day's like in her 20s.
Yeah, I know she is now, but she's been his apprentice for many years, right? So
many years. Has it been many years? I thought it was a few years.
Well,
even it's still young though. Still young.
It's even still right.
And you can imagine somebody like Morpheus is like, you have to be an apprentice for like 5 years before you become a master poisoner.
And Morveer is in his 50s, right, or 40s?
Yes. Yeah. No, he's in probably his 50s. And if you think about this too, with Day, she's probably from like like some kind of noble family or rich family in Syria. And so, like, he probably got paid to train her in that or something like that. You know what I mean? So I bet she was sent. I don't know. It's just, it doesn't make it any better either way. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
No, you're good. You're good. But yeah, I think all in all, we're getting ready. We're at Cardati's now. Something's going to happen. We're excited. We're going to see how this works out. We have the entertainers there, ready to entertain. Wink, wink. And we'll see what happens. So yeah, 6 and a knuckle for me.
I'm gonna give it a 6. Harrison,
I think a 5 for me. I think a 5. Yes.
Ooh,
I just feel like the main strength of the chapter just really comes from just Casca alone. Other than I didn't even think about that. You guys pointed out how Shivers is like, he's so anxious about Monza. He's like stuck on girl mode, like thinking about a girl that he's not paying attention as much as to what he should be. He's not himself, So other than that though, I think it's pretty average overall.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Like it a lot. All right. So let's move on to our final segment, which is our community interaction segment. And folks, do we have an update for you?
George, you want to say it?
I said, oh my God, the book, Harrison.
Finally. It's finally arrived after way too much money, and way too much time.
Mm-hmm.
We finally got it to the right person.
Yeah.
The giveaway is complete. We are not crazy. We're not liars. He did make a post on Instagram. You can check it out at Circle of the World CTOW giveaway. Right? Is that correct, boys?
Yeah,
yes,
the hashtag COTW giveaway. I will say, because there's, like hashtags really only populate if it's like more than 100 or something. They might not show it, so we might have to just screenshot his post, but we could do that.
Yeah, we'll make it. We're
gonna do that. I mean, it's gonna look exactly the same as the picture that we uploaded a couple of months ago, but it is real. I promise you.
And it's gonna be from their account. And you can look up that account, and then you can therefore look at his post, and you'll see that it's there. It's legit.
We're not
Finally, it has arrived in Germany.
Most of it's on me for failing. Go ahead, George.
I think we should just explain the timeline of what's happened here. So.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Harrison. Go ahead, or George.
So we did the initial giveaway kind of competition thing back like early in November, got the results in, announced it, got the address, and sent it off. I think it was just after Christmas, wasn't it, Harrison?
Yeah, it was actually right after New Year. No, it was right after New Year's. Because of all the holiday stuff. Yeah.
And Harrison, your first mistake, I'm not criticizing, but your first mistake was sending it by USPS. Because that means it's going to pass through like 6 different fucking postal systems before it gets there.
Yes, I know you're not harping on me, so I'm not saying this defensively, but I've never shipped something internationally. George has, but
I just wish you'd asked me. I just was,
I'd pay for the majority of it, and I just was trying to take care of it, and get him his book, and I was trying to be a responsible young adult, and I was a fool.
Oh, I know. It's no problem because it's all worked out the same. So the book eventually, after 2.5 months, wound its way back to Harrison.
Right before I was about to send my own copy because I felt really bad about the whole situation. So I was going to send my own copy through FedEx instead. But then seriously, the day before I was going to go send it, the original copy came back. So we went to FedEx, and it was much more expensive, but it got there way quicker, and he actually got it. So we're happy with that. Also,
exactly.
It was that weird German symbol. That there's a street name for German.
Oh, was it the umlaut?
It's that B.
The two. Oh, the shot. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That really. I think that's what messed it up. Yeah. So, but anyways, we it's not a scam, and we may never do it again. But if we do it again, we know what to do this time. So.
And just so you guys know, this cost us, was it $300?
I would say I think it cost us about 137. What's that? I would say about 250. 250.
Yeah. So that was really worth it, wasn't it, fellas? I'm really sorry about that. You should never listen to any of my advertising ideas ever again.
Well, I think that the our giveaway was successful in the fact that somebody got a book that they would have never gotten otherwise. So I think that is the right thing to do.
Say one thing for the Circle of the World. Say we keep our promises.
Maybe.
Yeah. Well, we're just glad that finally got delivered through this arduous journey. You could say it went through its own quest for the seed. Seed quest.
It went to Shibuya and back, and then it got sent to the correct place.
It was absolutely appropriate that we went through all that for basically nothing.
Love it. Absolutely fucking nothing. Love it. It's great. But we're happy that finally got the book. Appreciate it. We hope you enjoy it. We will be doing, I guess, more giveaways in the future. Just don't know how near a future.
Yeah, probably not with so much expensive stuff either.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what we got.
We'll see. No promises made because here at the Circle of the World podcast, we do keep our promises. Which means if we make a promise, we'll have to keep it. So we're never doing that again.
Yeah,
it'll all be suggestions.
Yeah,
we'll all sign a T-shirt online digitally and then ship it to you or something.
Something like that. We'll figure it out. But no, we did enjoy everyone chipping in terms of the post, the engagement. That was fun. We really do appreciate that. And yeah, so keep that up. As usual, we have other stuff that we'll be, doing, especially on YouTube's and everything. So make sure you check that out. You follow us, and yeah. And thanks again to the winner of the giveaway. Alrighty.
Yeah, sorry it took so long.
Yeah, sorry about that. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support really does mean a lot to us.
Join us next week as we cover sex and death.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media, and we have a website. It's circleoftheworld.com.
And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any podcast app that you use. And please make sure to rate and review this podcast. Thank you all again for listening.
I laugh in the face of fear.